take this one. This is coming from a channel called Revoke. Who's responsible for unplanned pregnancy? Slim Thug and Mano debate. Who is responsible for an unplanned pregnancy? We're talking about a man and a woman. Let's hear what Revoke has to say. This was a story with 1,700 likes, 67,000 views, 111 comments. Say a prayer, y'all. That's the 111s. This channel has 3.1 million subscribers. Let's get to it. It's 3 minutes and 51 seconds. So you know me. 3 minutes and 51, that's like 4 minutes. I'll give this about maybe 6 minutes.
Around making these babies. Are we equal? Now, from a woman's standpoint, it's women's fault. Tell me why. Tell us why.
It's a woman's fault because the woman have the baby. So a woman shouldn't have a baby with nobody she knows she not gonna be with forever. So I blame women.
Right.
Period. I could be irresponsible as I want to be in these streets. At the end of the day, if you know I'm not gonna be with you, if you know that we just turned up and had a good time, we shouldn't be having no kids together, straight like that.
But what about, but did you protect yourself, or do you any responsibility for not working?
I did in some occasions, and I didn't in some occasions, and I will be honest about that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me personally. I know I probably sound like an asshole.
No, let's go
me
there.
Personally,
yeah.
I still say, even if I did, it should be on the woman to make sure she ain't having kids with people that she ain't gonna be with forever, because at the end of the day, who is it going to affect the most, the man or the woman, or the child? You know, you're going to have to sit there with that child and explain why daddy ain't here. Tell him, don't just tell him that he ain't here and he ain't a good daddy. Tell him that you wasn't never with daddy. You know, tell him that you and daddy was never in love. You know,
but are you attaching?
Had a baby on some random. I don't know what it was, but let's keep it real.
But are you attaching? Are you attaching love? Are you attaching being in love with the responsibility of a child?
I feel like if you got a child, you got to take care of your child. Period. If it's here, but I'm just saying you should have children with people you in love with, who you want to be with forever. That's just my opinion.
I have a different take on it, because what I think about a man, you know, I think that everything starts with him. It starts and ends with him, right? There's this blame game and this relational war within our community, and it's so problematic, right? There's a lot of hurt on both sides, you know, a lot of blaming on both sides. But me, the buck's gonna stop with me. That's not saying that she doesn't hold no accountability, but it's gonna start with me and it's gonna end with me. And I think that if we as males and men begin to take that particular perspective, we'll be more careful on who we put our dicks in.
Yeah, thank you. Speak clear, Mano.
I feel like we all responsible. We all have accountability, and I don't want to point the blame either left or right. But I have a question. If a man is dealing with a woman and woman says, look, I'm on birth control, you know, it's good. And I'm like, I don't want to have no more kids. And then, you know, she ends up pregnant down the line. And then you say, well, how did you get pregnant? She said, well, I missed a few days, but I want to have this baby. After I already said I don't want to have no more kids, whose fault is that?
Okay, I got an answer, but I'm gonna let Dre answer from a male perspective. I'll take from female perspective.
There's already lack of trust. Just like Slim said, there's a lack of trust within women within itself. So if that's the case, and you're listening to what a woman is saying,
we have put the blame on each other, and what you're hearing is two people accepting personal accountability for our own actions. Even though you kept asking repeatedly, well, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? No, I'm taking responsibility for getting pregnant. And Dre is saying he's taking responsibility for getting somebody pregnant. And that's the conversation that we're not having on the personal accountability. Because even though me as a married woman with a husband that wanted a baby for 7 years, I took personal accountability for myself when I was ready to have a child. He respected that, but I knew that, hey, this relationship may or may not work out. And guess what? He's the best co-parent ever. We live in the same city. He's 15 minutes away. I wouldn't choose any other man in the world. But I had to make sure that I was mentally prepared, financially prepared, physically prepared, because I knew that at the end of the day, like y'all have both pointed out, this child is going to be with me because I wasn't going to give my child up, you know.
Yeah.
So I had to take personal responsibility. So we didn't spend a bunch of time whose fault is it, not fault. And I was a whole married woman. I knew that when I got pregnant, I'm going to take the responsibility for myself. So I kept IUDing me every 5 years to make sure that it wasn't no slipping. So what I think, and I'm glad
But
you kept asking that repeatedly.
Mano,
Yeah.
let me ask you the question with your son. If you told your son
Right.
what I would tell my son, and he came back and told you, but Dad, I trusted her. But what did you tell him? Who would you say fault it is, since you want to ask whose fault?
Well, I'm not the one asking whose fault.
No, I'm
She
asking
asked
you
whose
now,
fault
though.
Because that was the question.
But I'm asking you.
She's asking you now.
Because
Then
we're
we'll
doing
see first.
scenarios now. I'm giving you a scenario. If
Right.
it's your son,
But hold on. I started my conversation out by actually saying it's all of us. All of us have responsibility.
Okay.
I have accountability. If I do something, I'm accountable for that. If my son does something that leads to something else, he's accountable. I was being devil's advocate and giving you a scenario just to see where we was at in the conversation,
Right.
and,
I got
and
you.
who we needed to whose fault it was.
Right.
This
I got
is not
you.
my personal.
But I do
So what
want to
I'm
know.
saying
I
is
do want to
that-
know personally though. But as before we wrap up, whose fault would it be? The same question that you asked. Both, equally both.
if you
Just so
told
we're
your
clear.
son, you already answered because you
Who?
already said if
Right.
your son would be responsible. And let me just say something to you, and that's manliness and that's fatherhood. What you just said, that's manliness.
Right, but I started my conversation off like that.
But I'm
It's
yeah, but
obvious.
I'm picking
If
it back
me
up and
being a
saying
man,
that's manlyhood and that's fatherhood right there.
indeed,
Please believe. it.
right.
As what I think about a man, I think that everything starts with him, starts and ends with him, right?
And you know what? This is such an interesting topic that was brought up because this just shows you clearly where the disconnect is at. I mean, y'all know me. I can go through each sentence and I can put a stopper and explain something. But I don't think that's what is needed. The fact that I got this video sent to me, in all honesty, it does make me feel like there is hope. It makes me feel like there's hope that we can bridge a disconnect that we have in our black community, especially our black marriages. And the thing of us mending that disconnect is both parties have to be willing to listen. Both parties have to be willing to hear. And both parties have to be willing to outright communicate how you feel. And then number 4, both parties need to be mature enough to handle the person's answer. I am so glad this was sent to me because it shows me that there are channels out there that are showing men and women where we're trying to see what we can do to come together. We're not just looking at channels that's trying to tell you, oh, you need to be like this as a woman because this is why you did. Well, I don't want to watch the channels where this is what you need to do as a man, or you did. See, that's where people misconstrue and misunderstand me because they're not understanding the core to how serious this is. It doesn't matter who it is my point always. What matters to me is what's in front of me and who's in front of me doing something that's not right. These are some mature black men. Whether I know them on the other side or not, at least listening to this video and watching this video shows me that there are men and women out there that's willing to sit and listen to each other. I mean, come on now. You had us, we have to keep telling you the same thing over and over. But it's okay, the fact that you still sitting at this round table. There's a big, huge problem, and that's the disconnect of communications in a black relationship. And it's going to always be one-sided if it's like that. You got to be able to hear what the other person is saying. Now, my opinion of this, who do I think is at fault when it comes to a woman getting pregnant? I honestly feel Like it's both fault. It's both people's fault. Because one might have been wanting to have a kid, and then the other one might not have been ready to have the kid. But who had that communication first of all? Who talked about that before they even got started? If that was someone you was dealing with and you didn't have that conversation with them, that's still both of your faults. But let's say that was somebody that you did have that conversation with them, and one person wanted it and one person didn't. The one person that didn't want it, you need to make sure you take the precaution, because you already hear this person say they want it anyway. So if they're telling you that they want a kid anyway, you got to make sure as the other person to take that responsibility to say, you know what, I know this person wanted, we're not ready. Either we're going to continue to do this or we're going to feud about it. However, I'm going to use protection. It's almost like that question, oh, if someone gave you AIDS, whose fault is it? Mainly it's the person that gave it to you fault, because if you have AIDS, you are by law supposed to tell someone that. But in all honesty to it as well, it's the other person's fault too, because why are you having unprotected sex? This goes back to both parties. It's not just a one party problem. It goes back to two people. Both people have to be responsible when they lay down. It's almost like drinking and driving. Everybody in the car have to be responsible. Either before you drink, you get someone to be the designated driver while everybody else is drunk as skunks. Or you get in the car and all of you are drunk. So whose fault it? It's still everybody's fault. Even though the most blame is going to be put on the driver, it's still everybody's fault, because everybody knew they was getting into a vehicle and someone was driving and drinking.
It's this blame game and this relational war within.
It's always a blame game, and it's a relational war, and the only one who is at war about it, as you can see, is blacks. Black man, black woman, because you honestly don't really hear white people around here talking about who's at blame about having a baby. We just take everything in our community and we take it and we stretch it so far out of whack until sometimes you can't even put it back. We're now, as grown adults, having the conversation as to who is responsible for having a kid, an unplanned pregnancy.
Accountability, and I don't want to point the blame either left or right. But I have a question. If a man is dealing with a woman and woman says, look, I'm on birth control, you know, it's good. And I'm like, I don't want to have no more kids. And then, you know, she ends up pregnant down the line. And then you say, well, how did you get pregnant? She said, well,
How did she get pregnant? She got pregnant down the line. And you're saying, how did you get pregnant? So basically what you're saying here is you really wanted her to take all the responsibility of protecting herself because you felt better having sex without protection yourself. So basically what you're saying is you're already being irresponsible because it's better to have unprotected sex and you will leave everything else to somebody else. So you're basically saying as a man, you're dropping your guards because you have them put up for everything else. So why would they not be put up when you're down there doing that, dude? I understand what you're saying, but you get an X, you get a red flag on the play. And then you want to go back and forth in circles about this same question because, again, you just start noticing that you aren't taking accountability. Though this is a second question that's asked. But you were putting it like that's not what you were asking. That is what you're asking. You're asking if there is a situation where you thought someone was this or you thought someone was that. And down the line, you see that they end up getting pregnant by you. And you're so shocked and amazed and you don't know how that happened. Well, it happened because you went down there too. And it happened because you didn't have on anything. Because had you had on something, would she have gotten pregnant? No. But I understand the other side to what he's really trying to say is he wanted to trust this person. Plus he liked having intercourse with no protection on. Admit it because you liked it better like that. But in so many ways, you don't want to say that. You just want to say that the woman is wrong. because she should have said something, she should have this, she should have that. But you still have to hold yourself accountable. You still got to take this accountability, and that's where some men are at. They never want to put down their guards just to say, I own that. But why? Because that woman, she's just as guilty. And if you said that you didn't want to have kids and she went and did that anyway, she's not just guilty, she's deceitful. She played a big role in that. But what we're talking about is your role in it. You got to own your role in it. That's what's the problem. We are, for some reason, it's that accountability thing. It's that let me man up and say, dog, man, I messed up.
I missed a few days, but I want to have this baby. After I already said I don't want to have no more kids, whose fault is that?
Okay, you're still missing the point. It's still your part. Part of this is your fault as well. The reason why part of it is your fault because you are the one that did not want to have a baby. It's like what you did was you left the decision in her hands, even though you still wanted to be the big man. But let's say this was about a contract, one of your business contracts. Are you going to leave that important deal on the table with anybody because they said, oh, I'll look over it for you? You're going to leave it in their hands and not take a look back, not make sure that you protect your document, not take it to a lawyer and then ask them to explain it to you. You're just going to take the advice of someone to tell you anything about a contract, and it's your money on the line, it's your career on the line. No, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to take that bit of business and you're going to hold that near and dear to you. Why? Because it's your money. It's your livelihood. It's your lifestyle. It's everything about you. It's your business. This is how you pay your bills. This is your bread and butter. We can go on and on. This is how you take care of your family. This is how you, that's the same thing you're going to do if you're dealing with a woman and you said you did not want children. It's the same difference of an example. If you're going out to the club and you're hanging out with everybody, you know that you're going to be drinking. You know that you shouldn't be drinking and driving. You're taking a chance when you leave the club. You're under the influence and you didn't make sure anybody else in the car was sober to take you from the club while intoxicated. It's still that line of accountability. You're asking the question, but later on you're going to say, that's not what you was asking or why you didn't ask. The fact that you asked, we're still giving you the same answer no matter which way you put this.
More kids, whose fault is that?
Okay. It's both of y'all damn fault now. We're moving this on. Because I'm telling you, he went through this about 20 times. We're done with him. Bye, boy. Nah, bye.
Man's half, if you already know what's out there, I'm going to continue to strap myself up because...
Exactly. He still wasn't getting it. He's not getting it because he's looking at that one side. Listen, the reason why he's not getting it is because he's still looking at that one side where it's the woman's fault. It's the black woman's fault. This woman ain't doing this. No, I'm going to blame her. No, she the one ain't taking care of the kids. No, she shouldn't have had these kids. No, but there's no accountability as to what role did you play. What you need to ask him is, let me ask you a question. You said you didn't want any kids, right? Okay, yes, you're right. I said I didn't want any kids. But then the first thing you're going to say, yeah, but I told her I didn't want any kids. Okay, cool. So you told her you didn't want any kids. You thought that she was taking some sort of precaution. Yes, I did. Okay, so how would she have gotten pregnant? She would have gotten pregnant because of you. But you know you are important. You know you don't want any kids. You know you're not ready for that yet. You need to make sure you're taking care of you. Despite what her answer is now, not saying what's going to happen in the relationship now that you don't want this. We don't care about that. We don't care about that. We don't even care about her. The reason why we care about her because she's the one that will carry a kid and have this kid, and then you're going to be responsible. But you are the one that's important because you're the one that's saying you don't want kids. You already know she want them, so guess what? Being that she want them, you know what type of sneaky link people pull? Okay, now that's why you're on here asking these questions.
I'm not going to leave anything to chance.
And you're not supposed to, and he's not supposed to either, but he should have got that answer by now. We're moving on.
me. But I think what Dre is saying is, do you take ownership and saying, I'm going to trust her, or take the ownership on your...
Watch, he's not going to trust. He's never going to take ownership, because again, this is when you're dealing with those type of men where you could never get through and connect to them because they got their guards up, and what their guards are up doing is the blame, blame, blame. It's the blame, blame, blame. And what he's not understanding is he would literally sit here and think that everyone is defending the woman, just like the men gonna do me in the comments. They're gonna feel as though I'm defending the woman. This has nothing to do with defending a woman. This has everything to do with him. He said he don't want any kids, so he need to make sure he take those precautionary measures not to produce a kid. Don't just put it all on her. If you're saying, yeah, I put it all on her because I really, really trusted her, and we agreed that we didn't want protected sex, but she said she was going to be doing this, then I can understand. But in the same breath, you still should have took your own precaution, even given the fact that you trusted her. You still should have took the precautionary measures. That's not saying we're defending her. We're only saying that about her because she did what she did. But you still need to hold yourself accountable for the part you played. He's not going to get it.
Mary is, I'm not going to trust me having a baby to nobody.
That's right.
How do you do that? You don't. And he still don't get it because he think it's all about the woman. He think it's everybody saying that the woman is right and you're wrong. That's not what no one is saying. This is what my thing is when it comes to men. They'll get on my channel and they'll really swear down that I'm against men. No, I'm trying to show you how to get to women. You're never going to get to them with attitudes like that. Oh, I'm not going to bow down to no woman. Okay, so why are you wanting a woman to bow down to you? Why can't both of y'all be submissive to each other and then be happy? Do you know what submissive means? Submissive is more stronger than you think. Submissive isn't a broke down, weak person. That's not what that means. And I think if people start getting off that mindset, when someone used the word submissive, when someone used the word, oh, she catered to me, or someone used the word, oh, he really, really loves me, he do anything. It's like a mental thing, especially, and I'm telling you, it's only in the black heads. White men don't act like that. They embrace that soft and sweetness and that toughness too. White women embrace when black men are tough on them. And those are the weakest women. They can take a black man being rough and tough on them. But if I walk up and say something, I just took her whole baptism. But they relate differently. So if white people relate differently, why is it that black and black don't relate? And we understand each other more than anybody. Because I can go somewhere and I can see a woman acting a certain way. As soon as she do this, and she don't even have to do it like this. All she have to do is like this. And I'll say, look at her acting spotty and cute. We spot those different attitudes because we know each other. We know our demeanor. But why is it that we can't turn and talk to each other? Why is it, men, that you can't show that you have a submissive side too? Why can't you put your layers down and get on the level as a woman? You know the woman is the one that come with the soft skills. We're the ones that teach you that. So if we're teaching you soft skills, what makes you think I need you to be hard on me all the time? This is a disconnect here. It's a disconnect, and it's obvious it's a disconnect because you see how Mano, he keep asking the same question over and over. Why? He's looking for someone to say, oh, the woman is wrong. So what they should have said was, okay, the woman wrong, now what? So next time we'll make sure that she wear a condom. Yeah, I passed by the other guy because he was just straight up silly. And once I seen him bobbing his head to the guy, I'm like, yeah, he knew he was saying something wrong anyway. Oh, it's the woman's fault. I feel like as if I said, I didn't even want to indulge with him. I've had enough of Mike Tyson's.
The primary. Now, when
enough for you too. He done said enough. You already got me talking a lot. There he go again.
The question.
And I told you
Who's to blame?
At any time.
He answered you 11 times. Who's to blame is the both of y'all. If you the one don't want the kids, damn it, then you need to cover your hat up or wear a hat or however y'all say it. How many times you want us to say the same thing? Both of you are to blame. Why are you waiting to hear that this woman is to blame? Y'all see, men? You see, this is what we're talking about. I mean, Kuda Kente right here, he understands everything that we're saying. It's always that certain group that ain't gonna get it. Why? Because he looking to place a blame. But what he's not hearing is the woman is being blamed. But what he want to say is, no, the man shouldn't take no blame in it. Now, if you want the man to take no blame in it, then you know what you need to say? I cold-heartedly trusted her. And I put my guards down because I believed her. But right there, when you say that, you're still taking accountability. And if you want to go for a man, I won't trust these women no more. Boom, that's what you should have did the first time. Women too. Because women could say, hey, you got own protection. But we're not talking about the woman because this man, you're the one that posed the question.
You give something important to yourself over absolutely one. And the only way you can do that is you take the initiative to protect yourself every time until you're ready to have a child.
Is that understood or is it heard? Or do you understand? Come on, man. I know y'all just want to blame the woman. You have to take accountability. It's both of y'all. No one is saying that it's your fault by yourself. But you know you didn't want any kids. Therefore, you need to take accountability. You do. The woman is not right. No one is taking her side. But you're the one posing the question because you the one didn't want the kids. What part of this would make you responsible?
Because you love her.
So to answer her question that she posed earlier, it's the man's fault.
Back to it again. I told y'all, this is one of those men where you would never get through to them, even though he had 18 people that's telling him the same thing, no matter both. In other words, both of these questions, the answer is both of you are to blame. The first question, we're telling you both of you are to blame. The second question, we're telling you both of you are to blame. Anything else? Now, when you look back at this, you're going to be surprised that you act like you didn't notice and you were trying to point the blame at a woman. And any woman that's with you should say, why didn't you get that question? What happened? What was it? What happened just then when you blinked out? What happened when you asked? You're the one that asked the question. You've gotten that answer 10 times in different ways, but it led back down the same road. Both of you are to blame. Stop trying to blame the woman. It's senseless. It don't make any sense. She did wrong, but we talking about what you didn't want. Goodness.
You
We ain't listening to you either. We done heard all y'all. Okay, who talking now?
that wanted a baby for 7 years, I took personal accountability for my...
Right there. All you have to do is take your own personal accountability for whatever is going on. That's the key right there. Take your own personal accountability. You got to be held responsible for things that happen in your relationship. You can't just go away and say, oh, she nagging, she don't listen. You got to take responsibility. You got to take accountability. You got to hold yourself to a certain standard as well if you want a relationship to work. It's not so much about a woman want a man that she could tell what to do and women get like, no. Do you really think women just want to argue with men? If you really believe that, then something honestly is wrong. That means there's a disconnect in the houses that you've been living in. There's a disconnect with the women or the men that you've been dealing with. Because me personally, I would rather have a peaceful life. I would rather be able to get up with a man and go out to breakfast, go to dinner, do things that are sporadic. Hey, if this day I want to go shopping and I would like for you to walk in Macy's with me, why not go with me? If this day you want me to go to the bar and watch the football game with you while you drink a beer, I need to do that. It's called compromising. And I don't know where this notion is that black women just want to be miserable and angry. No, those black women that you're choosing want to be miserable and angry. But that's where you guys need to stop labeling everybody. Stop putting all of us in the same boat. Learn how to listen. Look at him. He's still asking the same damn question because he still didn't get none of the answers. Why? Because he don't want to hold himself accountable. So he done learned his lesson. If this in fact have happened, because I think he said it didn't, but if it did happen to him, would you give yourself a chance for it to happen again? So if one woman tricked you and you end up getting her pregnant because you thought she this and she said that, would the second woman be able to trick you the same way? Maybe you could answer that question as to, at that point, whose fault is it? It's both of y'all fault, but individually you need to be held accountable on your own. That's the disconnect right there in the black community. And now you can see it. We see what the disconnect was. Nothing we could do about it unless we decide to mend this gap in our relationships. This your girl, Queen Dee Dee, where Dee Dee said it. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you don't do anything else, I say get to know me. See you next time.